Nicolle Wallace did a great job of assessing what's occurring in Texas with the Republican Party, but it's not only in Texas, it's throughout the country. But watch the encapsulation of what she's actually saying, and then let's take it on the other side.
Everything is bigger in Texas, including the state's lurch to the far right, with a wave of new laws now going into effect. About this phenomenon, Dan Balls of the Washington Post writes this, quote, Texas is an example of the balkanization of the country as red and blue states push further and further apart in the policies they embrace and enact. No state of note, however, has gone as far in one direction as Texas. In that way, it is a model for those who cheer those policies. Whether it becomes a political object lesson is now the question. So let's examine today's Republican priorities, with Texas leading the way. Those new Texas policies include the most restrictive abortion law in the country, outlawing abortions after 6 weeks with no exceptions for rape or incest, and where fellow citizens can receive a $10,000 bounty for turning in anyone who performs or aids and abets an abortion. There's the law allowing any Texan, and we mean any Texan, above the age of 21 to carry a handgun in public without training and without a license. Texas also enacted a law that limits school discussions on our country's history regarding race and racism. There's a new law requiring professional sports teams to play the national anthem at home games. And about that restrictive voting measure, which now bans 24-hour and drive-through voting, empowers partisan poll watchers, and restricts voting by mail, it will soon become law. While carving out space as the nation's most anti-choice governor, Texas's Greg Abbott cannot lay claim to being pro-life. No, not by a long shot. The Texas governor's reckless disregard for the health of his citizens is decidedly pro-disease and death indifferent for those living in Texas, including that state's children. While asking for help in his state's overflowing ICUs, Abbott is stridently opposed to life-saving measures like vaccine and mask mandates. And that's even as the virus surges in Texas schools, turning Texas children into the latest victims of Abbott's anti-science worldview. All of this adding up to a state whose governing policies don't match the will of its people. According to a new survey from the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas at Austin, for the first time in its polling history, a majority of Texans say that the state is on the wrong track, a position echoed in an editorial by the Austin American-Statesman, which reads, quote, here, Abbott outflanking his right-wing rivals in next year's gubernatorial primary has become more important than serving the needs, even protecting the lives of all Texans. Here, self-governance is not about serving the good of the community, but bolstering the ability of certain individuals to impose their will on others. Governing for the good of the majority isn't rocket science. It's the whole idea of a democracy, in fact. Too bad our governor still doesn't see that. The Texas Republican Party serving up a buffet of red meat for its base.
Pro-death. Pro-death, and indifferent, pro-disease and indifferent to death, anti-science, and ready to populate the state with anyone who wants a gun to have one. Which party is pro-life? Which party believes in the sanctity of life? Which party believes in people? Which party believes in making sure one has a good life? Saying it is one thing. Living it is another. Legislating against a good life is not only probative, but it is evil. And that is what they are putting into law. That is what they are codifying. How is this any different than what we should now all call the American Taliban? They've had a lot of experience in executing guys have now for some time. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.